Hi guys, it is Aoife from Fred Was He Died Laughing, and I'm here for a different kind of video than I was actually expecting to do. I sat down to film and I decided that this was something that I wanted to do. So as you guys probably know, something really terrible happened in Las Vegas on Sunday night, and a lot of people died, even more got injured, and even more than that have all been affected in some way, whether you know the people or you don't. And sometimes it's just really hard to think about a lot of the things that are happening in this world and really come to terms that there are people out there that will do these terrible things, and everyone needs a little bit of comfort. Everyone has their own different sources when it comes to comfort, and for me as a reader, one of my things that I turn to when I need a little bit of comfort is books and reading. So I decided just to recommend 10 different books that I would think would be some comfort reads for me, and hopefully I can spread the joy and the loveliness of these books, and hopefully other people will be able to pick them up and also experience some joy and comfort out of them if you ever need them when you are in a time of need. So the first book that I'm going to hold up is something that's going to be really obvious. It would actually be a lot of people's comfort read, and it is Harry Potter. I'm just holding up the illustrated edition because this is particularly beautiful, and whenever I just need something nice and safe and something I know I'm going to love, I will pick up Harry Potter. I'm definitely in for a reread of the entire series, and I just think the friendship, the magic, the beautiful writing, the beautiful world building is just everything in this book, and it's definitely one that can take you away, whisk you away from a world that isn't as nice as it should be, and bring you into another world that, you know, battles are fought, evil is beat, and yeah, I just absolutely love Harry Potter. I know a lot of people will also turn to it when they need a little bit of comfort, so that is definitely one of my comfort books. Another book I'm going to hold up is one of my all-time favourite books, and it's one of my all-time favourite trilogies, and that is Under the Never Sky by Veronica Rossi. I just absolutely adore this book. This is a dystopian sci-fi YA book, and it is about a girl called Arya and a boy called Perry, and the world has turned into, it's basically very dangerous to live, and people live in these special kind of pods, but there's also these people who live outside of the pods, and they're kind of known as almost like wild men, and you know, like kind of brutes, and people think that they are just, you know, they're uneducated, unsocialized, that they're just crazy, almost like animal-like people, and one day Arya ends up being thrown out of the pod, and she has to kind of live on her own, and she meets Perry, who is one of these kind of wild men, and they end up striking up this tentative kind of relationship between the two of them, and they end up helping each other and obviously becoming friends, and she learns more about his world and he learns more a little bit her more high-tech world, and this is one of these books that's actually really hard to explain, but once you get into it and once you get into a few chapters, you'll know exactly what you're kind of getting yourself into, and I just absolutely adore the love relationship in this, the friendships in this. I just love this book so much. I absolutely adore it, and I always hold it up in these kind of videos, but yeah, this is definitely one of my favourite books, one of my comfort reads all the time. So in case anyone was wondering, I do have a classic in this haul, and one of my favourite all-time classics is Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. I would love to be holding up a really pretty version of this book, a really pretty edition, but unfortunately I do not have any of the really pretty editions. I just have this movie cover, which definitely is not one of my favourite covers of all time. I'm kind of on the lookout. Eventually I will get my pretty cover of Sense and Sensibility someday, but it's not today. I just adore Sense and Sensibility. I do like Pride and Prejudice. I know these are kind of the top two when it comes to Jane Austen, but Sense and Sensibility definitely comes up top for me. I just love the friendships between the sisters in this. I just love how, like, you know, how sensible Eleanor is, and then how crazy Marianne is, and she is just so over the top, and I think everyone knows someone like Marianne who just like falls in love the instant she meets this guy that she deems perfect, and always ends up getting her heart broken, and it just can be a real drama queen and over the top about everything. And yeah, I just think this is a really nice story. I just fall in love with the characters and the story all over again every time I read it, and now that I'm talking about it I really want to read it again, so I'm going to have to do that soon. Another book here is actually one of those ones that I didn't initially think I was going to put on in this recommendation video, But the more I thought about it, the more I thought about just how lovely this book is and how it just makes me smile. That is Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. There's just something about this book and about the story and about the characters and just all the different kind of high school things that they are going through, and just, you know, there are some like some pettiness in this, but it's all juvenile. It's all kind of those natural things that everyone kind of deals with at some point when they're a teenager. It's just life. But the relationship between Simon and his pen pal Blue in this is just absolutely beautiful, and it just really makes you rooting. There's a little bit of a mystery to it as well, and I just adored this book. I read it so quickly. I read it in like a couple of hours, I think. I just could not put this book down, and I can't wait for the movie of this, which is now called Love, Simon, I saw on Twitter, which I don't mind at all. So yeah, I just cannot wait to read this again. Eventually I will reread this again and also see the movie of this. This is just a lovely, lovely book. Another book that I'm going to talk about, I actually don't have a physical edition of this, but I do plan on getting the entire trilogy. I do want to get like a really nice bound set of the trilogy, and that is To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. This is one of those books I say all the time. I was not expecting to love this book when I first read it, and I just could not put it down when I started to read it. It was one of those TBR jar picks. I just happened to have it on my Kindle for some reason. I was a bit like, oh, this is going to be really juvenile, this is going to be just childish, I'm not going to like it, and I absolutely fell in love with the story. I fell in love with Lara Jean, I fell in love with Peter, I fell in love with the fake boyfriend turning into real love interest. That is just, I love those kind of stories. That is probably one of those buzzwords for me, and I just, yeah, everything about this book, everything about the second book I loved, everything about the third book I loved. This book is just perfect, and I just really need Jenny Han just to write books forever about Lara Jean and Peter, because they are just my favourite couple of all time, and I just would like Peter to be real so he can be my boyfriend, and that would be perfect. So yeah, I absolutely adore these books. I definitely I only read the Always and Forever a couple of months ago, last month, and I already want to read it again. I want to read the whole trilogy again. I think I'll never not stop wanting to read these books. Does that make sense? Did I make sense there? I don't know. But I'll always want to read these books anyway. I just want to read them again and again and again all the time. I love them. Another book here is an adult contemporary book, and that is Somewhere Only We Know by Erin Lawless. I have talked about this book before a couple of times, but I just love this book. This is about a young girl living in London, but she was not born in the UK, even though she grew up in the UK, and basically her visa is running and she has to leave London leave the UK if it doesn't work out. She's going to have to go back. I think it's Russia she has to go back to, and there's this man, and he's actually working in the immigration offices, and he first encounters this girl but he sees her application for her visa renewal, and he kind of knows of her, and then he sees her out and about, and they end up striking up a friendship, but she has no idea that he initially did see her application for her visa, and she ends up she's like in love with London. This is kind of a little bit of a love story to London as well, I think, but she loves London. He doesn't really know London that well, and they end up becoming friends, and she brings him all these different places to London and shows him around, and he kind of sees how much she loves London, how much she loves living in England, and he really feels for her because he wants to do all he can to kind of help her stay, but they don't know. He kind of knows based on her application that she probably won't be able to stay, and they obviously do start to fall in love with each other. But I do really love this story. It is just nice, refreshing, it's quick, the characters are lovely, it's a relationship to root for, and yeah, it's beautifully predictable. I love those kind of stories. Another book I'm talking about is one that I've talked so many times about on this channel since I read it last year. That is Not Forgetting the Whale by John Ironmonger. Again, this is one of my favourite books of all time. I've only read it once. I do need to read it again, maybe before the end of the year, I don't know. But this is just a beautiful, I don't even really like to say what the story is about. It's about this guy that comes to this village. He tells them that there is basically a plight coming, that everyone is going to, that there's going to be shortages, that they need to look after themselves, and for some reason they decide to believe him, and it's just about this village. It's one of these kind of apocalyptic kind of stories, but a nice one. It's one where people work together and help each other, and no one kills each other, no one fights each other. It's gorgeous. I love it. Read it. Read it. It is just the most beautiful human story ever. Another book here is a typical one, that is The Selection by Kira Cass. Again, these books are short, they are quick to read, they are addictive. you will fall in love with it. You can read literally, I think I read this in one day, and I don't think you have to be like an incredibly fast reader or an in-depth reader to be able to read this in one day, because it's just one of those ones that sucks you right in and you cannot put it down until you finished it. And I love it. I absolutely love it. A book here is one I read last year I really enjoyed, and I just think the world is so fantastic in this. I think it's definitely one that you could read and just let you suck in to another world, and that is Glitter by April Lynn Pike. This is kind of an alternative reality book, I think, in a way, because it's basically this young woman is living in Versailles, but Versailles is actually kind of like its own country, and they're all living as if it's the 18th century. I think it's the 18th century. And then she ends up having to try and run away from the situation that she's in, and to do that she ends up being sucked into selling something called glitter, which is a drug, and she ends up putting it into makeup, and gets all the people in the Versailles court to buy it off her, and obviously they become addicted because they're ingesting it through their makeup. But it's really good. I would read it. I really enjoyed the world. I just thought it was really, really clever, really original. Haven't read anything like it before, and the writing is really great. There is a love relationship, which isn't like the best love relationship ever, but there is a love relationship in it if that's what you like. And I just adore the cover. I think the cover is beautiful. This is one I do actually want to get physically because the cover is stunning. So yeah, definitely read it. And the last book I'm going to talk about is it's another trilogy, but it's actually the first two books are actually my favourite, and that is Graceling by Kirsty Cashore. This is a YA fantasy book, and it's basically where in this world, if a child is born with two different coloured eyes, it means that they have something called a grace. They are a graceling, and it means that they are going to be very, very good at something. People can be really good at cooking, they can be really good at swimming, can be really good at fighting, but basically this is about a girl, and she's a really, really good killer, and it's basically about her kind of learning more about what her grace is, kind of coming into herself a little bit more, becoming a bit more independent, and it is just an absolutely amazing book. Graceling is the first book and Fire is the second book, but I actually read them the other way around. I read Fire first and Graceling second, and in my opinion you can do that and it's no problem. The third book is Bitter Blue. You do have to read that one third. But yes, I just think this world in general is just really great. I would read as many books as I can set in this world because it's just amazing, and it's definitely one that I like to come back to again and again. I think I've read this one 2 or 3 times, but I do really, really enjoy it, and I would definitely recommend it for people who are looking for just a comfortable, lovely YA fantasy to read. So those are 10 books that I would recommend for some comfort reads, ones that I just really, really enjoyed, and I would like to share with other people to enjoy. And I hope you guys like this video. Please comment if you do. Please leave me down any of your own comfort reads, and hopefully maybe I won't have heard of some of them and I can check them out. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye!